All right. Thank you for staying with the Monday Report. Town Hall session continues. A lot of feedback on CBC. But let's start with Wilson Kimathi, a CBC parent. How are you dealing with this pressure? Because Anne Wangoi mentioned earlier on that she comes home late, there are assignments to be done, and she's been running a business the whole day. How are you dealing with it?
Thank you, Trevor. My name is Wilson Kimathi. I'm a parent and a businessman in Nairobi. My question is still on CBC curriculum. How are we engaging the parents? Parents have been complaining on how CBC curriculum is quite time-consuming. And how can we use technology to help these parents to reduce their workload? Like, for example, I downloaded an app the other day called TISAS Education app. It's a really nice app that seems to have CBC content that is child-friendly. It is involving the children, and especially now that the children are sitting for the upcoming KPSEA examination, the grade 6. So what is the policy direction and framework to make sure that such apps like TISAS can reach the parents, the children, and also the schools? Because right now we are only using YouTube for CBC technology. Yeah. Okay.
Dr. Manyasa, the use of technology, and it's an interesting perspective that it brings. How can that be improved more and also be made available? Because not everybody has internet access.
Technology is something that we are going to have to adopt. We don't really have a choice because that is where the world is going. However, I do hope that you don't want technology to step in the place of the parent. Because parental engagement was deliberately designed to be in this curriculum. It's slightly maybe overly designed to be in the curriculum, but deliberately, because if we go back, originally education was by the parent. It's only when we developed and industrialized that we started to now produce education on an industrial scale and outsourced it to teachers. Otherwise, education was by parents. And so the parent is the primary teacher of the child. So when you take that child to school, the parent must constantly be in touch with the teacher and with the child. So that, we've had cases where a child is suspended from school. When the parent comes to school and the teacher is talking about the child and the parent is talking about the same child, you realize they are talking about two different children. The child that is known at home is not the same one that is known at school. How does that arise? Because there is a gap in terms of the engagement of the parent and the school. There is a gap between home and school. And young children will exploit those gaps if those gaps are allowed to exist to their own detriment. Because at that age they think it is beneficial, they think they are outsmarting the parent and outsmarting the teacher, but eventually it doesn't benefit them. So, yes, apps are necessary to the extent that they are complementing, not supplanting the parent. Yeah. In the learning of them.
All right, Dr. Mugo, because it's the same country where we had a policy for laptops. Yeah, so would this have been the best place to now use them?
I think technology is a sword that for Kenya now is cutting both sides. It's very important and we have to leverage on it to learn, and so the use of apps is important. But if we are not careful, it can also lead to inequality. Because Wangoi earlier on spoke about Turkana. So we have to be aware that technology is not what will lead to exclusion. And so as we provide for greater use of technology, and Jemima talked about digital literacy as one of the core competencies that CBC is producing, we have to very deliberately provide for those parents that have to take a phone for 30 kilometers to be charged somewhere, or where there is even no telephone connectivity, where that now you even can't speak about internet. So those different contexts of our country, I think we have to look at how to balance.
Okay.
And that role of the parent. Previously, Christabel talked about an educator called Froebel, a German. And one of the things we know when you read is that children learn a lot through observing. So what CBC is actually pushing the parent to do is not even so much about the homework, it's about spending time with your children. That if you can actually just spend more time, you know, when you come in the evening, or maybe there is that one day when you don't go to work, maximize it. So that, or even depending on the nature of your business and the work that you do, like now we are going to a long holiday. Is it possible maybe to even go with your child where you work for some time for them to see what you're doing? Because they learn a lot through observing. Children who are younger than 7 years will learn more through interacting with you and seeing what you're doing more than what you tell them. And that is what actually impacts on them and their character. So for parents, it's really, really important to spend time with your children. Because the teacher cannot parent your child. They have 40 of them, 50 of them, and they cannot really become the parents to our children.
All right. Please pass the microphone over here. There was a concern, and then we'll go line by line. Let's try line by line and see how that works. Okay? Yeah, briefly.
And the panelist, my name is Samuel Mburu. I'm a parent in grade 6. And I'm married in Nairobi County. CBC is working because if I was to value it, I can give it 90%. But the 10%, it needs people of goodwill in order to amend the remaining percentages. So my concern is, this is between the child and the parent in aspect of the mental health. Remember, this child has been given an assignment in music that by the end of the day, ameambiwa hii wimbo enda ucheze, naye dada ama mom akuchezeze. Remember, this parent has been busy kwa kazi zake za maofisi, so anataka tu akifika nyumbani ni kurelax. Now sasa mzazi atafanyaje? He or she will respond in a negative mood, where acha kunisumbua. So the following day, this child anaenda shule, he or she won't be able to catch up with other kids because of the yesterday's mambo yale ilichomoka pale hivi. You see, by the end of the process, we are trying to bring up children who are fully stressed. I remember a few days back, kumekuwa na issue ya mtoto fulani committed suicide because of 100 shillings for school fees. I told it to the parent. To avoid such cases, I would request or I would recommend the government that the panelists have, who we are its citizens, kindly to consider the issue of mental health in all levels.
All right.
It's okay, I as a parent, I can be able to share with my friend. What of that small king and small queen, whom will you share the experiences going through?
All right. Pass the microphone to your right, and then it will come to the front.
Thank you, Trevor. My name is Duncan Mwangi. I'm a parent in grade 1. My concern are about assignments ambazo zinapeanwa. Sometimes I ask myself, assignment zingine zikikuja, was this really meant for me as a parent, or was it for my child? Kwa sababu somebody is in grade, by then I remember she was in PP1, and then she was told to make a guitar. Sasa mwenye naambiwa atengeneze gita, hata kibuyu yenyewe ashike akate wapi, mbao atafanya nini? So at the end of the day unajipata ndio unafanya nini hiyo kazi.
Okay.
So my question is, who set this syllabus? Ya kwamba, because there was a time, at least when we were in school, we knew ukiwa class 1 you're supposed to do this, ukiwa class 2 you're supposed to do this, ukiwa class 4. So but this time huyu ile assignment ambayo amepewa, it's beyond the level. So my question is, nani ambaye ana set hizi syllabuses? Kwa sababu hizo ndio yafanya tusikie kama wazazi ni kama tunarudishwa shule tena. As much as we want to spend time with our children, as much as CBC imekuja kuturudisha kwa watoto wetu, which is very good,
Yeah.
But now, can it be at least relevant? Kitambo inaeleweka.
Okay.
Msichana anakuja anasema, sasa nimeambiwa play a percussion instrument as I dance. Okay, fine, you will do that and you'll enjoy. But my question is, can't this be done in group kwa shule? Will it not bring the same competent ambao wanaangalia away from the parent? So those are some of the things ambao zinatusumbua kama wazazi. Hatukatai CBC. Personally nimeona venye inasaidia. Nikiangalia mtoto ambaye amepitia CBC na wale ambao hakupitia, she is confident, she is independent in many things, hahitaji kupampiwa in many things. So at least we love CBC. Lakini the biggest problem we have ni ya kwamba wazazi hawaelewi CBC ni nini. I think mimi nilichange mind yangu saa zile tulitwa workshop shuleni. Tukaambiwa this is what CBC is all about. And then at the end of the day tuliposikiza zile vitu tulikuwa tunasema ni utoto, tunasumbuliwa, huyu mwalimu anasumbua. We came to realize, so this was good and it was made for our children. But now the problem is, how many parents understand CBC? How many parents know what they are supposed to do and whatever they are told to do, why they are doing it? So because we were used to a different system, now tumeletewa ingine ambao inafaa kuimplementiwa, and we are partakers of that of this, but we don't know. So that is where there is disconnect. I wish, I don't know what will be done, at least wazazi tuwe empowered, build our capacity for us to understand what is this CBC, what is it all about. Okay. We are used to venye tumeambiwa ya numbers, number 1, number 2, number 3. Sasa mimi ongaria resort za zenye zinakujaga home, unaona hii 3, 4, and then you don't, at least I have an idea, but how many people can understand what is happening? Okay. So we feel like we are left out and want to be part and parcel of CBC.
All right, pass the microphone to the front and hear what you have to say. Yes,
Thank you, Trevor. My name is Charles Sochome. I'm the National Chairman, Kenya Private Schools Association. I'm happy to be here to listen, because listening opens up people's minds. But I would like to pose a question to Kenyans, as I concur with my friend Dr. Manyara about 844 being a system and the other one is a curriculum. That as Kenyans, how many of us are on the streets looking for jobs? How many? And we have been in this system called 844. And the other day I heard the president say that 5 million youths have no jobs in this country, and these businesses to see how they can get jobs. What took us there as Kenyans? Is it CBC or it is 844? Number 2, I've been listening across the country to contribution from various stakeholders, and everybody agrees CBC is good, but they say this issue of parental engagement. Is it right to relate? Is it wrong to relate with our children when they come home? And the homework, the assignment, the projects the children are given, are they exams or they are just being told to help them? And when they fail, are they punished or are you punished? So I think we just have, as Kenyans, to engage the parents and to empower them to understand what this is all about. And we will not be able to succeed if, as Kenyans, we start things and kill them before we see the results. And that is common in this country.
Okay.
I'm still having issues with the universities for killing the parallel programs that was actually improving the welfare of the lecturers and those universities, and just because of a few problems that could have been solved. I want to say that this nothing will do without problems. There will always be challenges. But must we kill those things because of the challenges? We talk about education, and now, the other day, you heard many of our universities are in financial constraints, and many of our students are going to start going outside to look for the same degrees we blocked in our universities here. which was creating more employment. So many people are working. Now so many are jobless. So I think Kenyans, we must be careful how we react to issues and possibly when we have problems with our systems.
Okay.
So I want to appeal to all of us that it is nothing that will come without challenges. It's impossible.
All right.
Thank
Please
you.
pass the microphone to George over there. No, go ahead if you have a comment. And just a quick correction, by the way, I'm being informed that the task force is giving the preliminary report mid-December, not on Friday. Yeah? All right. Go ahead.
Okay. My name is Lucy Wawero. I'm a proprietor of St. Teresia Preparatory School. My concern is I am coming back to the same question the lady behind me raised about the transition from grade 6 to junior secondary.
Yeah.
I would want to ask, when will our government recognize the fact that the private school in this country is taking care of about 30% of the student in this country, the pupils. Almost, I think he can agree with me, we have more than 30% of the total population of the children who are in school.
Yeah.
And now when we are told that the children will transit to the secondary schools that are the sub-county secondary school, you find that in those sub-county secondary schools there is a public primary school. So their first priority will be those children who are in that primary school, if I'm not wrong. Then the children who are in private school, what is going to happen? Therefore, for us as the proprietors, we would want more support from the government so that we can be able to have the junior secondary school in almost every private primary school, as it is happening in the public school, so that these children can also transit without any problem. And by doing so, we also have helped the government a lot in this transition from grade 6 to junior secondary.
All right.
Thank you.
Please pass the microphone back there to George over there. Then we hear a few recommendations. And then I'm trying to see if we can squeeze in as many of you as possible, but we're really squeezed for time. George.
Thank you, Trevor. And I wish to take this opportunity to congratulate both Dr. Emmanuel and Mugo. You have been a consistent voice in ensuring that the public continuously gain knowledge about CBC, knowledge that is not idle and far-fetched. It's based on your experience and what you have researched. I have had very interesting questions. I will summarize the key concerns emerging from these conversations. One of them is that there is obviously a failure that has been noticed, and it shows up its head in 3 areas, and those areas have been thoroughly addressed by the panelists sitting here. I would focus on parental engagement. And parental engagement is a thorn, and it's a thorn that I would recommend is given the attention it deserves, because the cries of the parents are not idle cries. And it starts from the design of the learning journey of each and every player in the ecosystem of the new curriculum. And a learning journey is important to think deeply about and design so that we think completely from the beginning to the end how the teachers are going to learn about the new curriculum, how education officials at the Ministry of Education, at Teacher Service Commission, at Kenya National Examination Council, the affiliated bodies, learn about the new curriculum. And lastly, just how do parents learn about the new curriculum? I hope that the recommendation that is going to come out of this task force is to encourage a deeper thinking through the learning journeys of each and every stakeholder that is at play in this learning ecosystem. The second thing is the second head is the assessment head, and which I agree with Dr. Emmanuel absolutely, that this grade 6 examination, I hope, like he prays, that it doesn't happen. Unfortunately, it looks like it's going to happen, Dr. Emmanuel. And if it does, we encourage the implementers sitting behind the curtain to ensure that they do not come up with a competitive list of which schools did better than others, or which child was number one and which one was number last. It is one of the most futile ways of checking if learning is happening. My recommendation is they come up with itemized feedback on how each and every question has been done, or the performance at each level of the question, and with the proper recommendations. For example, that George William has done very well in fractions. He understands deeply the concept of LCM and the rest. He needs to focus his efforts now on multiplying length and width to get area that is specific and can be able to help George William to proceed to the next level with an open mind and with the possibility of a success. And lastly is the area of the possibility of making it possible for the entire country to share a vision. The vision of the CBC is known by very few people. Mostly who you see talking on TV and also sitting at high government seats. What I propose is that when there is a change like this, we rally the country with proper information. The proper communication about this curriculum need to be done. We can't now look back, really. The failures that we have experienced. But going forward, we have to be very intentional about how we communicate CBC. Our voices must be united. We can't have one government body like the Curriculum Institute of the KICD speaking very positively about the new curriculum, and one body speaking very negatively or passing different information. So we must unite our vision about what CBC is about. Thank you.
The burning concern wasn't spoken before. Back there, there's a lady. Let's give it to the ladies there and back there. And then one more. Yeah, go ahead.
My name is Naomi Wanchiko. I am a student and also a sister to a CBC student. And there has been a concern about what measures of discipline are you going to instill, especially when you said that for those transiting to the junior school, they will automatically go to schools that are close to them. There are parents who might consider to shift their children from urban to rural areas. Of course, some children are not used to the same environment, although they have the same content, but they're not used to the same environment. There might occur issues whereby children are not understanding each other. There are issues there maybe from their families, how they talk, how they dress, and everything. For us who went through the 844 system, we had a certain method of discipline. What measures can they be put, or will they be implemented to make sure that, of course, as the transition goes, there has to be some level of indiscipline. So what measures are there which are different from the 844 system? Because for us, sometimes the punishment that we got from an honest statement, they made us worse, they made us better. What measures can they be made to make sure that that child, once after there's a mistake done, they don't change who they are, but they become better people even in future, that they don't make the same mistakes, but they understand who they are despite the fact that they have made mistakes.
All right.
Yes.
Pass the microphone back there to the lady over there. And then we'll come here and close remarks. So you'll give a closing remark, both my panelists. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Trevor. My name is Nancy Chege from National Parents Association. I'm the National Treasurer, and we give our recommendations to the task force on Friday. And I would like to say that we came up with 43 key roles, of which the government should see to it on how we will at least get this thing called CBC rollout. The current structure, we are recommending it to be substituted from the one junior secondary to the upper primary, and then for it to allow the learners to just transit in the current primary schools which they are in. And then we are recommending from grade 1 to grade 6 as to be called the lower primary school, and now from grade 7 to grade 9, the upper primary, and the current from Form 1 to Form 4 to be the senior secondary school. Because our children, which are 11 years now, they can't transit to the secondary, and still they are very young. When we expose them to the learners who are already 17 years old, we are going to risk their lives. So we have proposed from ECD to university school on how they will go about it. 43 key role models on how they will go about it. Thank you.
All right. Please pass the microphone over here. The two gentlemen who will close and then come to closing remarks from the panelists. Every single time Dr. Manyasa and I think we are about to finish this CBC conversation, it becomes wider every single day. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Trevor. My name is James Dirango, a student at St. Paul's University, pursuing education. My question on this curriculum is, how do we remove the criticism of people watu wana criticize this curriculum saying that nimesikia mtoto ameitishwa mahindi choma, nimesikia sijui mguu ya kuku. How do we remove this curriculum, this criticism, and how do parents watakuwa able to implement the curriculum?
Okay.
With collaboration of the teachers? And also another question is, does our schools have the right infrastructure for this curriculum? Like in rural areas, we see there's congestion in class. Unakuta in our classes, there's a lot of children. Unakuta class has like 70 students. How is it that the government is doing to give the school the right infrastructure so that it can be conducive for the learners?
Okay. Final comments. Yeah.
My name is Vincent. As we reiterate and we reflect on the use of technology, I will also want to know the role of public universities and graduates in implementing the CBC, because I feel like graduates and experts from the university can have a different interpretation of these animals. Because if you say bring me chicken, doesn't necessarily mean it has to be a real chicken. You can have a different interpretation, because the main aim is the competence part of it. It's not the animal or rather anything. So let's have a way of how we incorporate public universities and graduates so that we maximize on the skills.
Okay. We're really pressed for time here, but Dr. Manyasa, I'll start with you. There are many questions. The private schools involvement, measures for discipline, infrastructure, criticism.
Let me start with the recommendation by Nancy. I understand the fears everyone has about their children going to boarding schools when they're young. But we have to create junior school if we are going to implement CBC. Because junior school is going to play a totally different role from the primary school. And let us face it, there has been a notion around that the primary school teachers today are able to teach the content of grade 7 to 9. They are not. And teachers have shown me science questions, and told me, I am a science teacher, but I'm not able to handle this question. And that is grade 6, it's not 7. There will be 7, there will be 8, there will be 9. So the current primary school teacher is not set to implement the junior secondary school curriculum as designed currently. But also we have primary schools that are struggling to be primary schools. We have seen on TV primary schools where children are learning two different groups in the same classroom with 2 teachers at the same time. How will junior secondary school be domiciled in that school? If we say let us just rename it upper primary. I don't agree with that. We have to agree that we need to create junior school and there will be senior school. And senior schools are not going to look like our current secondary schools because we're going to have schools for the regular students, we're going to have schools for talent academies, and we're going to have schools for technical, which we should start thinking about the possibility of turning some of our TVETs into senior schools that will take in technical students because they are better equipped and they have tutors who are set for that system. We need to think like that. I know that one main complaint that has been there with CBC and which I have heard everywhere is CBC is expensive. And yes, it is expensive. No one drives a Mercedes on the budget of a Toyota because this is a superior curriculum. We must agree that it will be expensive. Expensive nationally because CBC classrooms require lower pupil-teacher ratio than what we could do with the current system. In the current curriculum, you have a teacher come to class, 70 learners, lecture and go away. If you're going to be interested in developing every learner's potential, you will not do that in a lecture hall where you lecture and walk away. You need to be able to pay attention to the individual learner. That requires you have smaller numbers. So we need more teachers to implement CBC well. And that, I have a question for most Kenyans who keep saying it is expensive. Why do you want to subject our children to a cheap education? And that leads them nowhere. And I go back to the point Mr. Ochobe made about a lot of Kenyans being on the street. In the last KCSE exam we had in March, we had 826,000 Form 4s. 379 scored mean grade D and below. 490,000 scored D plus and below. A total of 60% of all the Form 4s who sat exams last year had D plus and below. And we have been producing those ratios for the last several years. Are we surprised that we have Kenyans on the street when that is what this system is manufacturing? And given that we always brand them failure, there have been solutions offered. People have said they haven't done courses like plumbing. Let's go back and ask ourselves if we trained 379,000 plumbers from this year's cohort only, where are the jobs to accommodate them? Because that comes down to about 1,300 plumbers per constituency in Kenya. Look at your rural constituency and tell me who are building houses that require plumbing there that can employ that number of plumbers in a year. And that is what we produced this year, not the last 5 years. So we don't want to give our children a cheap education. We want to give them an education that is worth, that will give them opportunities to develop and contribute to this country meaningfully. Finally, there is the issue of many challenges emerging as we implement CBC. And challenges will continue to emerge until we have the first graduate come out of university. Because when you're implementing something new, there will be something that you are learning all the time. I think that we need a mechanism that will troubleshoot emerging challenges. The best mechanism will be the National Education Board, which we haven't set up. I hope it can be set up soonest, so that it becomes the mechanism through which we will be able to get feedback from parents, from teachers, from children who are going through the system, from other stakeholders like owners of private schools who are implementing this curriculum. And that mechanism then troubleshoots the issues that emerge, because they are going to emerge continuously until we have gone through the full cycle. And I hope that the task force recommends and insists on establishment of a National Education Board.
Okay. Dr. Mugo, closing remarks? We're really pressed for time now.
I think criticism is good.
Yeah.
I think posting questions is an important and very constructive thing. If this was just going without us contributing and asking questions, I don't think it would be a nice thing. And that connects to the role of the university. The one role of the university is research. And I think this is where we call on people in the university, the researchers. Can we see what evidence, is coming out on the implementation of CBC? We have seen very little, unfortunately. And I think that's the contribution of the university, as, of course, they amend their own curriculum and the way they are training teachers. So the one who said is a teacher-student, I hope you're not being trained in the old fashion to become the old teacher in the new era. The one thing that I think we emphasize is the parent again. It's called parental empowerment and engagement. It seems like we are taking a shortcut to move to engagement without empowerment. And I think we call upon those that are responsible. Can we take the parent also seriously? At the beginning of every term, parents are supposed to be called and prepared that the objective for this term and the competence we are developing is this, and this. And these are the kind of activities that we should be doing with our children. That kind of briefing, if this relationship between the school and the home and the teacher and the parents was to become real, I think this is what CBC envisioned. And the other thing that is not spoken about that is very critical is something called community service learning. Because we are living in a society where we have forgotten something called the common good. Each person anajifikiria tu wewe. And yet we are saying that there are so many youth that are unemployed. But we have so much work. You may lack employment, you may lack the money to pay you, but there can't be lack of work in this society. There are so many problems to be solved. You turn left, right, center, there are so many issues to be resolved. So how can we challenge our youth to step forward and be open to community service, because through it you learn so much more. So this conversation is pretty healthy. I think let's be honest that a new way of educating is necessary and is needed. But then the challenges that are there are for all of us to resolve so that our children can get the better education that is envisioned.
All right. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to leave it there. Dr. Manuel Manyasa, Executive Director of SAWA Agenda, Dr. John Mugo, Executive Director, Zizi Afrique, and for all of you for the contributions that you've made. Just a quick correction, the task force will be presenting that preliminary report mid-December, not Friday like I'd mentioned earlier on. We'll see what comes out of it, but this is a conversation that we can't stop. We'll keep having this conversation because it directly affects your students and the people around us as well. My name is Trevor Mbija. On behalf of the entire team that made this possible, we want to say thank you so much and have a great night ahead, and special thanks to SAWA Agenda and Panari Hotel for hosting us this evening. All right?